WNBA finals. And so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just, obviously disheartened. You know, I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments. And so all I'll say is just, you know, it's.
In professional sports, it's said that no individual is ever greater than the league. The commissioner always has the gavel, and the shield always defends itself. But there are exceptions to every rule. And that exception has a name in the WNBA. Clark Caitlin. The old guard of the WNBA and the new wave that Clark symbolizes have been engaged in a silent struggle for the past year. However, that Cold War has suddenly heated up. WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is reportedly furious behind closed doors following a significant news about NBC and the future of broadcasting rights. This was more than a commercial transaction. The story was taken over hostilely. The front office is apparently in a panic, realizing they have lost control of their most valuable asset because the dynamics have changed so drastically. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 85% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already?
Great.
Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video. There is more to the narrative you are going to hear than just basketball. It has to do with money, jealousy, and the heartbreaking realization that the WNBA establishment made a mistake. Instead of humbling a celebrity, they gave her the kingdom's keys. It is said that Commissioner Engelbert is blowing up because she has come to terms with the unpleasant reality. The WNBA is not necessary for Caitlin Clark's survival. She is essential to the WNBA. Additionally, Clark now has the power to impose terms because of NBC, and the commissioner is unable to stop her. We must consider the scope of what recently transpired with NBC in order to see why the commissioner is allegedly losing her temper. We are aware that the WNBA negotiated a record-breaking 11-year media rights agreement for over $2.2 billion. This appears to be a victory for Commissioner Engelbert on paper. She can claim to have saved the league while standing at the podium. However, a different image appears when you examine the tiny print and network behavior in greater detail. For the WNBA, NBC did not pay that much. For the Caitlin Clark performance, they paid that much. There are rumors circulating that NBC's approach specifically focuses on Clark-centric programs. The WNBA's decades old. Everyone is equal marketing approach doesn't appeal to them. They are aware that the ratings originate from a single individual, and they want the ratings. This has caused a huge split. The 144, the notion that each roster slot is valued, is what the commissioner wishes to encourage. On the other hand, NBC is using the league as a star vehicle. The network has essentially circumvented the commissioner's authority by siding so strongly with Clark. Engelbert is unable to order NBC to cease airing Clark. If the numbers don't support it, she can't urge them to concentrate on the New York Liberty or the Las Vegas Aces. There was more to the announcement than just games airing. It was a sign that the networks are now in charge and that number 22 is their chosen queen. However, the commissioner had a migraine after the NBC contract. We must discuss the unparalleled league. This was meant to be the WNBA's major sisterhood moment during the offseason. This 3-on-3 league, which was founded by celebrities Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, was marketed as the best place for elite athletes to earn money and maintain their fitness throughout the winter. They needed one thing to make it really feasible, even if they had the money, the players, and the buzz. Clark Caitlin. Unrivaled, reportedly hurled everything at her. We're talking about an offer akin to that of Lionel Messi, a salary of more than $1 million, league equity, and enormous incentives. It was an offer that was meant to be hard to turn down. The commissioner and her colleagues' profiles. Then the shocking thing happened. No, Clark replied. She declined the opportunity to play with the elites and millions of dollars. The front staff was rocked by this rejection.
Why?
As it was a flex. It was Clark telling the establishment, I don't need your money, and I don't need your validation. By declining unrivaled, she deprived the new league of the much-needed publicity. It demonstrated that, Apart from the clique that has been hostile to her all year, she is creating her own empire. This is a catastrophe for Engelbert. It demonstrates that Clark lacks self-control and is prepared to leave the table, leaving the rest of the league on its own. We must examine Engelbert's personal reputation, which has suffered greatly, in order to fully comprehend why she is allegedly blowing up. NBC was not the source of the conflict between Clark and the commissioner. There was silence at first. Fans witnessed Clark being singled out for hard fouls and needless contact throughout the season, which frequently appeared more like hazing than basketball. The league office was remarkably silent during it all. It was thought that by shielding the newbie, Engelbert was scared of upsetting the more experienced players. The interview that altered everything then took place. Engelbert delivered a corporate, meandering response about rivalries boosting viewing when asked about the toxicity and the ominous cloud of fan disputes surrounding the league. She likened the hate speech to the time of Bird against Magic. It was a tone-deaf catastrophe. She was criticized by the Players' Union, WNBA. Fans of Clark attacked her. The media even turned against her. She had to apologize frantically, but it was too late. There was a void as a result of this leadership failure. It dawned on Clark that the person at the top would not protect her. For Engelbert, this is the reason the NBC collaboration is so risky. Massive media firms are essentially Clark's new defender. The commissioner knows she bungled the bag, which is why she is upset. Instead of taking advantage of the opportunity to support the world's largest celebrity, she attempted to play politics. She is now observing from the sidelines as Clark completely transcends the league. We can't talk about this NBC story without mentioning the Olympics. This was the Foundation's first significant fracture. Many saw Caitlin Clark's exclusion from the Team USA lineup for Paris as a gatekeeping effort by the veterans. They intended to demonstrate that you must wait your turn. Commissioner Engelbert used the excuse of basketball reasons to openly back the committee's decision. The narrative intensifies at this point, though. The network that aired the Olympics, NBC, was allegedly incensed. They were aware that having Clark on the team would have broken worldwide records for women's basketball viewing. The WNBA establishment lost millions of dollars in potential advertising income by excluding her. Let's fast forward to the present. For the WNBA season, NBC is putting more effort on Clark since they won't allow the old guard to cost them money once more. The commissioner is aware of the network's lingering resentment over the Olympic blunder. The league is being forced to do what they ought to have done in the summer by this new attempt to focus everything on Clark, which is almost like retaliation from the media behemoths. Place the star on the screen. The fact that the commissioner must oversee a locker room full of players who are allegedly enraged with jealousy adds to her frustration. What many veterans feared, that Caitlin Clark rises and sets with the sun, is confirmed by the NBC statement. Legends like Cheryl Swoops and Diana Taurasi have spent months attempting to downplay Clark's influence, saying that reality is on the way or refusing to give her credit for the league's expansion. However, they're being hit by reality with the NBC arrangement. The players who have been there for 10 years are not worth billions of dollars to the networks. The rookie is being paid for by them. Engelbert is in a bad situation as a result. She must maintain harmony. The concept of one player receiving preferential treatment is disliked by the Powerful Players Association. However, the commissioner is unable to dispute the economics. She is caught between a disgruntled and irate workforce and NBC, a corporate partner that only gives a damn about the one player that the workforce despises. Since it's a pressure cooker, it seems sense that rumors claim she's about to blow up. In a world where the winner has already been determined by the market, she is attempting to control egos. The internal conflict within the sports media is another facet of the story, which casts doubt on the league's authority. We witnessed the predicament with Hall of Famer and WNBA great Cheryl Swoops. She manipulated statistics, refused to mention her name on broadcasts, and made subtle and occasionally overt barbs at Clark for months. The criticism eventually became so vociferous that Swoops was essentially kicked out of the booth for a scheduled game. The media's higher authorities sent a clear message. Don't harm the product. Caitlin Clark is the product. WNBA icons should be honored and safeguarded, according to Commissioner Engelbert. However, The networks are demonstrating that they will sever relations with anyone who poses a threat to the Golden Goose, including a legend like Swoops. The commissioner's authority is once further compromised by this. Every analyst and commentator receives a message from it. Get off at the stop or board the Clark train. Because the media partners will no longer put up with the hatred that the league allowed to develop for so long, Angelbert is losing control of the narrative. Let's put an end to the chatter and discuss the cold, hard money. The commissioner's stress stems from this. In the past, the WNBA has suffered significant financial losses. The NBA provided subsidies for more than 25 years. Then Caitlin Clark showed up. All of a sudden, arenas are sold out. Sales of jerseys have increased by 500%. Because the money is available to support them, charter flights are now being authorized. The commissioner is aware of the vulnerability of the WNBA's abrupt solvency. Nearly all of it is based on the Clark effect. The bubble collapses if Clark is hurt, decides to take a break, or chooses to play in Europe. There are probably terms and audience expectations in the NBC contract that depend on Clark performing. Clark has a lot of power because of this. The employer has the upper hand in a typical negotiation. In this case, the worker represents the whole economy. When Angelbert realizes she is no longer in charge, she starts blowing up. She looks after a home that Caitlin Clark constructed. The commissioner must listen to Clark's requests to adjust the timetable, travel plans, or media protocols, since doing otherwise would result in financial devastation. However, the media agreement wasn't the only source of conflict. The schedule itself was the problem. Fans noticed something odd early in the season. The schedule for the Indiana Fever was harsh. More games against the league's most formidable teams in the first month than nearly anyone else. Many onlookers thought it was a setup. The league seemed to be tossing Clark into the deep end in the hopes that she would drown and the narrative that she needs to change would stick. It backfired spectacularly, if that was the plan. Clark made it through the ordeal and prospered. The scheduling dynamics will probably shift now that NBC is involved. In order to keep Clark fresh for national TV, networks will want prime time slots, rest days, and games that maximize viewership. The network executives will now have to account to the commissioner's office, which determines the schedule. The schedule can no longer be used by Angelbert to maintain league balance. The commissioner's ability to uphold the 144 equality policy will be further undermined by the schedule's focus on a single player. The commissioner is sweating because of another group in this equation: the sponsors. Although companies like Wilson, Nike, and Gatorade are investing heavily in the league, their marketing is primarily directed toward Clark. In particular, Clark has a huge contract with Nike that apparently exceeds her WNBA salary. Because of this peculiar dynamic, Clark may be more loyal to her sponsors than the league. Clark will miss the Premier League if Nike instructs her to do so. She does a halftime interview if NBC requests one. The commissioner is gradually coming to the realization that she has less control over her star player than the corporate behemoths. Securing sponsorships for the league is Angelbert's responsibility. However, the league office appears unnecessary when the sponsors are just interested in the player. The explosion that we are hearing about is probably a response to these sponsors going directly to Clark's representation instead of Angelbert. Being left out of the loop in her own sport is embarrassing for a commissioner. We must also discuss the fans. The Clarkies have millions of new followers, but the WNBA has always had a devoted, if modest, fan base. Instead of the WNBA, they are devoted to Caitlin. They have publicly denounced the referees, the commissioner, and the other players. There is a fan uprising against Angelbert. Thousands of comments on social media demand her resignation each time she makes a mistake. These fans are encouraged by the NBC announcement. It confirms their view that Clark is the sole important factor. The commissioner is trying to cling on to the legacy fans who oppose the move while simultaneously trying not to alienate the millions of new fans who pay the expenses. The balancing act is unachievable. In essence, the new fans are validated by the NBC pronouncement. The commissioner is further cut off from the fundamental WNBA culture from which she originated when it tells them, "You were right. She is the star." She is losing both the public's faith and the locker room. How the league responded to the allegations of racism and toxicity was one of the most contentious parts of this story. Instead of addressing the behavior on the court, parts of the media and the league misrepresented the fans' harsh treatment of Clark as toxic. It was a deflection strategy, but that tactic has passed its course. The league can no longer hide behind specialized narratives because NBC is bringing a mainstream worldwide audience to the games. The cameras will be in 4K, and the comments will be monitored. Next season, it won't be limited to a Twitter argument if a player takes a cheap jab at Clark. The Today Show will feature a segment about it. The commissioner is aware of this. She is aware that she must improve the league's reputation due to NBC's increasing scrutiny. The casual spectator won't put up with any more physicality that verges on assault. Further internal strife results from Engelbert's forced crackdown on the very veterans she has been attempting to defend. What comes next, then? The question that is causing the explosion is that one. When the commissioner looks at the 2025 season, she sees an unfamiliar landscape. The Golden State Valkyries will join the league. The pressure is at an all-time high, and expansion is taking place. Rumor has it that Clark's team is aware of their power and may begin to make demands. Everyone travels privately, there is improved security, and the officiating has changed. A newbie who made demands used to be laughed out of the room. Engelbert is no longer in charge, so if Clark shows signs of dissatisfaction, NBC executives would probably call the commissioner in a matter of minutes to ask, "How do we fix this?" In order to avoid being fired by the networks and executives, she works as a middle manager to maintain the satisfaction of the talent. Even if her title stays the same, it is a degrading reduction in real power. The picture becomes quite obvious as we finish this. The original WNBA's demise was sealed with the NBC announcement. According to reports, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is upset at being outwitted. The market required a superstar, despite her efforts to keep the communal everyone gets a prize method in place. Caitlin Clark has demonstrated that she is the center of attention for the WNBA by winning the support of the world's largest media corporations and turning down the league's fervent appeals. The sound of a paradigm shift may be heard in the front office explosion. The WNBA is no longer a case of charity. It's a large business. Additionally, you don't resist the money in huge business. The money is Caitlin Clark. It doesn't matter anymore whether the commissioner is upset, the veterans are envious, or the detractors are vocal. There will be television coverage of the revolution. Caitlin Clark will lead it, and it will air on NBC. The last unanswered question is whether Commissioner Engelbert will be the next victim of the Caitlin Clark period, or if she can adjust to this new environment. However, that wasn't the entire tale. There are rumors of another power transfer approaching just when you think everything has settled. One that might include the players' union itself. However, that is a tale for another day. I appreciate you watching.